Hello coin collectors out there. Welcome back to the Big D Coins channel. Hopefully you're having a great day. Today's video is going to be about the small date and the large date Lincoln cents. The key dates for those are 1960 and 1970. So that's what I've got in front of me here today. We're also going to get into a little bit of that one right there, which I believe has a die cut in between the 9 and the D mint mark. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, let's start talking about the small date and the large date Lincoln cents. So the name kind of is self-explanatory as far as what the different variety is. In 1970 and in 1960, some of the coins had a smaller date and some of them had a larger date. So the people that are out there trying to build their set registries like to get one of each of those coins. Now the 1970 San Francisco Mint small date is actually ranked number 87 in the PCGS Top 100 coin list. It's ranked like that because it is scarcer of the small date and large date varieties. So the 1970 is up there as well as the 1960. I'm going to move these 1970s out of the way and we'll look at the 1960 right here. Now I haven't really been able to get myself too excited about these small date versus large date, but maybe you are, maybe you're into them, so I'll try and give you some information that I've come across and maybe you can let me know why you find them particularly interesting, or if you're kind of like me and just haven't really been able to get into it yet, feel free to let me know about that as well. So a little bit of background for the small date 1960. So here's some information about that. So they first started to come out and all of them actually had the smaller date version to them. It wasn't known until they started making the larger dates until that people realized the ones that were coming out with the small dates were actually a variety, a different error, a different type than the ones that came out later in the year with the larger dates. So as far as the production levels go, these came in all three mints, the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint for the proof sets. So in 1960, there were 588 million cents that were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. There were approximately 2 million that have the small date to them. So that makes up less than 1% of all of the coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint have that small date error to them. At the Denver Mint, there are 1.6 billion coins produced in total, 1.6 Lincoln cents produced in total, and there were about 100 million of the small date, so that makes up about 1.5%. And as far as the San Francisco Mint, there are 1.7 million 1960 proof sets, and it's estimated that about 65 of those were produced earlier in the year and are going to contain that small date. So how you identify the small date, and I'll try and explain it to you the best I can, but totally understandable if this doesn't really make sense to you. But the best way is to kind of tell by the shape of the six. On the small date, the six seems thicker, and the portion of the six above the loop is much shorter than it is on the large date. Also, when you draw an imaginary line across the top, the 1 and the 0, the line cuts across the top of the 9 on the large date, and more of the 6 appears above the line. So the best way is to kind of look at pictures online, but those pictures will show you a line that kind of goes across. So if you draw a imaginary line starting at the top of the 1 and going across, you'll see that it cuts off the 6. So that indicates that it's one of the larger date varieties. So unfortunately, this is the more common of the ones that were produced. This right here is in the 99th percentile of coins that were produced. Now, there's some interesting stories behind the small date and the large date. There was kind of a fanatic craze for the small date varieties. You might remember when I did my recent video about the 1965, 66, and 67 quarters, those all didn't have mint marks on them because people were so into coin collecting in the 1960s that they tried to hold on to all of those mint mark coins. And one of the reasons for that is because of the small date errors that were coming out in 1960. So coin roll hunting and coin collecting and coin roll buying was all kind of at a fanatic kind of chase to get these particular coins. And as you can imagine, that whipped up a lot of speculative kind of froth in the coin collecting market, and all too inevitably the market collapsed for the 1960 small dates. As far as the values of them today, I'm looking at the 1960 version right now, and PCGS is actually graded 925 of them at a mint state 65, giving them a price guide of $5. So they've graded over 900 of them, where it was more expensive to get the coin graded than the coin is actually worth. Now, mint state 66, 67, you'll get some return on your investment there if you've got that 1960 small date. If you've got a 1970 small date, the kind of return on your investment starts at a mint state 63. So the 1970s are going to be a little bit rarer, a little bit harder to find. So here's a 1970 in a lower D, and a 1970 Philadelphia mint, and a 1970 San Francisco mint. So I've got a bunch of different 1960s and 1970s. As you can see, this one right here, the larger date variety, as well as if you drew an imaginary line, it would cut off the 6, the loop at the top of the 6. Now, I also mentioned at the start of this video that it looks like I've actually got a die cut on this 1960 right here. So I didn't really realize this until I started going through my collection of 1960s in preparation of making this video, but it almost certainly does. See that little blob right there in between the 9 and the D? So that type of error right there gets me a lot more excited than the variety of small and large dates. But that might not be for you. You might be more interested in getting that set registry of the small dates and the large dates. All right, everyone, that's all I've got for today's video. If you're into coin collecting, please do check out some of these other videos on the channel. Let me know if you enjoyed the small date versus large date video, or if you've got any suggestions on future videos that I should think about making. Thank you very much, everyone, and best of luck coin collecting out there. Enjoy.